Hello, everyone. Good evening. Welcome to another edition of the CtD Tech Thursday. How you doing, Ron?
Man, I'm great, man. How are you doing?
It's a good day. Good day.
Very good
Uh,
day. Very good day.
so we are live with a rookie on tour, or this was his rookie year, Michael Martell. I pulled with Michael a little bit in school, and we are here. He is a CtD Pro staffer, so we'll get to know a little bit about him, how he got into bowling, and if you have any questions for Michael, he's here to answer your questions. So if you have them, throw them in the chat. We'll get Michael to answer as many questions as we can. With that being said, how you doing, my friend?
Good. How are you guys?
Very good. Very good. So we'll just get right into it. If you want to tell us a little bit about yourself, where you're from, and how you got started bowling.
All right. So as you know, my name is Michael Martell. This actually was not my rookie year on tour. Last year counted as my rookie year because I bowled more than a majority of the events. But
Okay.
I'm from Brooklyn, New York. I'm 22 years old, and I've been bowling basically my whole life. My parents raised me in a bowling center. My mom was a GM of one center. Now she's a GM of another. So that's kind of how I got into bowling. It kind of just stuck with me. Something that I kind of rode the wave with. So 22 years later, here I am.
When did you start?
I was probably about 18 months old. My mom would put me on the lane while she was working. She'd be working at the desk. She'd sit me down on a lane close to the desk, and I'd push the ball down the lane.
Nice. That's awesome.
Yeah,
that's really cool. So my apologies for getting that. Wasn't your rookie year, but what have your first 2 years been like?
They've been tough, to say the least. You know, obviously there's a learning curve with everything new that you do. I found some success over the summer. I made a few cuts. I've made a few cuts this year, a few cashes. I've had a couple of cool highlights, but there's been more lows than highs, I would say, so far. But that's part of adjusting and, growing into your environment. It's been tough, but I'm learning, and if I'm not learning, I'm doing something wrong. So I would say I'm doing things right. And, when it's my time to win and my time to make some noise, I will. So it's been a struggle, but for the most part, it's been pretty good. I'm enjoying my time out there.
Sure. How do you get past the struggle part of it to get towards more of those high points?
It's hard.
Process.
Yeah, it's really hard because you obviously want to have success right away. When you go out there, you think you're good enough right away, and 99% of the athletes and bowlers aren't. And you're always learning, and bowling with some of the best bowlers in the world, it's humbling. And while you're struggling, it's hard to keep the right mentality. I'm pretty sure we talked about this last time I spoke with you guys, and so yeah, obviously the highs outweigh the lows, and if you focus on the highs and try and let the highs build up to bigger moments, and eventually the right stuff will come around. So it's like I said, I've had more lows than highs so far, but I'm trying to build off the big moments I've had and the big shots I've had to throw. And we'll just take those and run until those moments become more of a regular thing.
Sure. So we got a couple of questions for you.
Cool.
What is the process to, I guess, get your tour card?
It's pretty simple. They check to make sure you've averaged 200 in a sanctioned league, and other than that, it's just a membership fee that you pay every year. And by paying that fee, you get money off your regional entry fees, and then you're able to bowl all the stops as long as you have a membership.
Michael, did you bowl regionals?
I did. I started bowling regionals when I was 16. I would bowl my 2 every year until I cashed, because you're only allowed 2 cashes per year as a non-member. I've only missed a cash in 1 regional in my career, so wow. It's not a bad ratio. But yeah, I started bowling regionals when I was 16, and I led a few regionals in the last couple of years. I have multiple second place finishes, a couple of thirds, a couple of fifths. And yeah, this year, obviously, there hasn't been any to bowl. But last year, I bowled 5, I believe, and I had 3 second places. So,
wow.
Nice.
We're close. We're very close.
Close. And that's all it takes, man. Once you get that breakthrough, then it's the sky's the limit. I remember talking to EJ Tackett before he really had won, and he was kind of in the same boat where he was getting close, but just not quite there. And it seemed like, it's almost like a mindset thing. At your level, The guys on your level, you guys are all kind of repeat at about the same level. You're all good repeaters in terms of throwing the ball. It just comes down to some of those mental things, and that's hard to quantify. You've got to just be out there and experience it.
Yeah,
so
and
he said that.
Yeah, it's like when you go out there, a lot of the time people are result oriented and they start to gain trust in themselves and belief in themselves as they win. Something that I've been really good at, I think, is trying to build that trust in myself, that core like belief without winning. So that way when I win, it's not like, oh wow, I won today. It's like I know I was the best bowler here. You know what I mean? And that's, I think, why when I do win and I start to scratch the surface, I think I'm gonna have a lot of success. And that's what a lot of guys I think do wrong is, they wait for that win to be like, all right, now I'm good enough. Whereas like, I know I belong out there. I just, when I match up the right way, then I will win. But mentally I'm in a pretty good place. I know I have the talent. It's just when the time is right, it'll be
awesome.
Definitely. So this is interesting. What's your favorite tournament day meal?
That's actually a harder question than you would think. That really is. There is a lot of bowlers would agree with me that Chick-fil-A is the absolute best fast food meal to have before or after competition. But growing up, I actually had this really weird thing about me that I didn't like eating before I bowled. So if I had an afternoon block, I would barely have a snack before I bowled. So now I would probably say some kind of combination between Chipotle and Chick-fil-A as my favorite tournament day meal. Yeah, it's weird. I had this really weird thing that I thought I couldn't eat until after I bowled. I don't know where I got that from, but I guess it worked once, and I was like, all right, that's what I'm doing.
That's your move.
Yeah. So now like me and my tour roommates, Kenny and Andrew Sescriba and Jake Rollins, we had Chick-fil-A quite a few times as we traveled. That was always the play. So,
I mean, you can't really beat Chick-fil-A anytime. Let's be real.
Except on Sundays.
Hey, look, you made it for Sunday. It's all bad. No Chick-fil-A on Sunday, bro.
Yeah, that's luckily on the winter season of the tour. We don't bowl. If you're bowling on Sunday, you're doing something right. So
yeah.
When we get there, we'll worry about not having Chick-fil-A on Sundays.
Do you have one, Ron?
Do I have what? Chick-fil-A?
No. You're a favorite tournament day meal.
Nah, bro. Like I wouldn't say a favorite one. I would say that for me, it's definitely about eating. But I found that I need to be able to, if I'm bowling like a lot of games, I need to be able to eat kind of during the block too. So I have like little snacks, little kind bars. That's kind of the big thing I do. I do a lot of kind bars. Or what's the other one? There's another little bar that I like to eat too. But basically, I'll just have that to keep the energy level going. When you get, when you're 22, you can do whatever you want. It's like Superman. You get to 42, it's a little different story. You know what I'm saying? Like, the body's just, you got to get a little more help getting that energy going. So, he'll get into, you get into it too, Dustin. Eventually, you guys will get into it. You'll understand.
Yeah, I totally get that. I've actually, so this year I started eating while I bowled some blocks. I'd have a granola bar or, some kind of something to eat, and then definitely like a Gatorade or something just to keep me hydrated. Up until this year, it definitely was not the case though. But yeah, I understand.
Yeah, that matters, man. I think I remember talking to one guy who bowled on turn. He was like, the food for him kept him steady. So like he didn't have the lows or the highs as much because his body was being fed fairly consistently. So right. I don't know. I mean, I'm sure it's to each his own. You know what I'm saying? Chick-fil-A is. I love me some Chick-fil-A.
Yep.
All right. Who was your first sponsor, and do you have a different sponsor now?
My first sponsor was Motive. They were the first company that I signed with. Brett was great to me for a year and a half. I just decided to go in a different direction. I signed with Ebonite under Columbia 300 in 2018. Technically by brand, that's still who I'm with, but now I'm associated with the brands of Brunswick. So those I'm under the Columbia 300 brand now, but I also obviously am with Creating the Difference. I am with Turbo as a national staffer, and I am with Bowler X as a national staffer as well. Also, Apparently Effects. They've best jerseys in the brand and in the business. They've been great too. I'm with them as well. So yeah, those are my brands.
All right. So I would take this question as, how many bowling balls do you take to a tournament, as well as possibly drill? Average.
On the national tour, I would say I have somewhere between 12 and 15 balls at every event, just because we're allowed to transport balls on the tour truck. We're allowed to transport up to 9. And then when we drive from stop to stop, we have some in our cars. So yeah, I would say I have between 12 and 15 at every event. Normally I drill maybe 1 a week if my look is going to be good. If I know if the left is not as great, we tend to either not drill anything or we drill a lot of stuff to try and give us a better look. So it depends. I probably will throw on a good week. If I'm bowling well, I'll throw 5 or 6 different balls in a week. If I'm bowling anything local, I'll normally walk in with between 6 and 9 balls. A lot of the time I'll probably throw the same couple of balls, but yeah, national tour is where I see the most bowling ball. Like that's where we throw the most equipment. So.
Sure. What's your favorite CtD product?
It's got to be the True Cut pads. We've talked about this before. They keep the surface on the balls so well compared to anything else I've ever used. I even used some in practice yesterday. I went to practice yesterday for the first time in a really long time. Can't really disclose much more about that. A friend of mine did me a favor. Don't want to say too much, but yeah. So I was able to use them in practice yesterday. The surface I'd have to say I threw about 100 shots, and the ball did not completely lose surface in those 100 shots. It was incredible. So definitely my favorite product by far. The cleaning products are great, but by far the True Cuts stand out more to me than anything else. So,
nice.
What was your first shot?
So how was my first shot?
Yeah, how was the first shot?
So I actually bowled like 3 weeks ago for about an hour. I bowled like 3 games, but I hadn't thrown a ball since then. That first shot 3 weeks ago was absolutely brutal. I bowled a game. I had pain all throughout my hand. I had 16 pieces of tape in the ball.
Wow.
16 pieces of tape in the ball. I had tape on my fingers because the swelling had gone down, so I need to make sure I could hold on to it. I might have to go through a fit change pretty soon, I would think. But yeah, it was brutal. I woke up the next morning and I literally felt like I was going to fall over. And like that, the problem was that none of the amenities at my apartment building in Chicago, when I was still living there, were open. So I couldn't access our gym. And I had just gotten back into going to the gym before all this happened, and I was, really excited to like actually take care of my body. And now I've definitely put on about 15 pounds since this whole thing has happened, because food has been a savior. So yeah, it was hard. It was really hard. Even bowling yesterday for the first, half hour, 45 minutes was really tough until I was able to like get in a groove and throw some shots. So yeah, I think it's gonna be hard for a while, but I have my first event on the schedule for next month, so I need to make sure I'm able to get out there and keep practicing and get in shape. So
bowling centers open up around here tomorrow. Excited.
Yeah. Now I'm back living in Long Island, New York for now, and I would assume they said June 22nd, I believe, is when we'll be able to get into centers again here, which would be great. So I'm looking forward to be able to practice 3-4 days a week, maybe more, just to get back into shape and be ready to bowl Mega Bowl in Ohio next month. Big event. It's a first year event. It's similar to the way the Proprietors Cup was run. Lots of guys. There's 240 guys bowling singles. Wow. $500 a guy. I think it's a big event. Jody Boyd, who put that together, did a really good job. It's going to be an awesome event, especially as a first event back to bowling for me. So I'm
nice.
need to be ready for that.
So little side note, what do you do on tour to keep your health, fitness, and I guess keep yourself in shape?
So I know my roommates they've gone to work out a lot this year. I actually didn't go as much. I didn't want to be exhausted for blocks. A lot of the time I would have the 8 a.m. block, or, if everybody was bowling at the same time, we'd bowl at 9 or 10 in the morning. I didn't really want to be too tired. Being that it was my first year on tour, we're bowling mostly 8-game blocks, and we're bowling, 16 or 24 games of qualifying every week. I didn't want to be too exhausted. So I actually wasn't working out too much. It was more so what I was eating, drinking a lot of, non-sugary stuff. I would drink, energy drinks, water, just staying hydrated was the way to go for me. But yeah, I didn't really do a lot of working out just because I didn't want to, exhaust myself. I didn't want to burn myself out, especially if this is something I want to do long term. I wanted to make sure I was going to enjoy it before I pushed myself, to a new degree. So,
all right. I know Ron is big into the fitness stuff, so I think he can agree with that.
Bro, I'm just telling you, when you guys get older, you're going to get into the fitness stuff like I am too.
Trust me, I want to. I do want to. I just now that especially with having all this downtime, I'm more ready than I was before to get back into the gym, get, more in shape. I felt it when I was bowling. I'm not 100% into every shot because my body's not there. So once I get, I think I'll be able to compete at a different level once I'm, in shape more. But I'm on the same page as you. I understand what you're saying about it.
Yeah, bowlers I don't think they fully understand a lot of times how important that fitness aspect is. And, you think, well, what do I need to work out? I'm kind of walking to the line. What do I need to really work out? But there's a lot of core muscles, like
core, legs, legs
are a huge deal.
Yeah.
And you don't think about it, but 8 games a day, 24 games in a week, all the time, that's going to wear you out. And if you don't have, I think this past week with the strike derby was kind of a little skill to that. You know what I'm saying? Like,
those guys were exhausted.
Those guys were wore out, like beat down, wore out. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. And I think that's part of the deal, right? So at the end of the day, taking care of yourself is important. Eating right is crucial. It's very hard to do when you're on tour, when you're traveling.
Right.
But it's crucial. Like, that's what I found especially as I've gotten older, it becomes more and more about what you eat than it does just the raw fitness. You got to have the fitness portion going just to keep it, keep everything moving. But if you eat like crap, if I'm eating, Chick-fil-A every day, right? If I eat Chick-fil-A every day, them fries are good, by the way. But if I eat Chick-fil-A, I'm not going to be able to get to a health position to where I am fit, no matter if I'm working out or not.
Right.
So, I completely understand that. And I believe that the guys that are there long term, look at those guys that have got long careers, like Norm Duke or Pete Weber or Walter Ray. Those guys are fat. And there was a point in time when Walter Ray was overweight. He was way overweight.
And he had to take care to be able to compete. Now he had to make sure he took care of himself better. Yeah, I agree.
If you don't take care of yourself, it's over.
Right.
You don't want to be over at a young age. You want to at least get some time out there. So
right.
I'm glad to see that you're taking that into consideration. And
absolutely,
it's hard, bro. It's hard. It's definitely hard. Even when you get older, it gets harder too. Like you just find that as you get older, you kind of get stuck in your ways, and
definitely. If I don't take care of my body, it's not going to be easy for me to compete with these guys. These guys are not, the guys that win all the time, Jason and EJ, even look at like guys like Ryan Simonelli, they're very fit, and, they never complain about being tired or being overworked after a block. You don't see them complain about exhaustion. They're always ready to keep going, and like that's something that I would like to be that way, and I plan on bowling at that level for a very long time. So something I will need to be better at.
But that's one of the best parts of starting so young. I mean, at 22, you got your whole life ahead of you. You know what I'm saying? I mean, you got a solid 20 or 30 years to be able to bowl on tour if you wish to. So you're in early, you're having some success early. You got a whole bunch of sponsors. So obviously there's a lot of people that are supporting you, including us. So I think, it's really cool to be in your position to chase your dream at such an early time period, because a lot of people don't get to chase their dream. And I don't know about you, Dustin, but when I was 22, I was like, yeah, I'm not going to be good enough to be a professional bowler. It's just not going to. Well, now you may be a little different because you still the Team USA action going on still. So maybe you still was like, this is a possibility. But by the time I got to 22, it was like, look, you better get you a job, boy. It's going to be all bad.
Yeah, it's definitely, I want to compete for as long as my body and, the game allows me to. So 30, 20, 40, however long it is, that's how long I plan to be out there.
Awesome. Very cool. What is your go-to ball?
If you want me to be very specific, I will say a purple hammer and just end the conversation. However, I have made it a very important tool for me. I have not thrown a single. I threw one shot with a urethane ball yesterday just to make sure it still felt good on my hand. I don't plan on throwing it at all during practice, unless I absolutely have to. I want to get better with reactive, so that way I have more tricks, more tools to be able to compete. I've told you guys I feel like I relied on the urethane shapes too much. So if I had to name my favorite reactive bowling ball right now, it would probably be a Verge by Deviate or a Closer by Radical. That Radical Closer really got me through a lot of tough spots at the US Open, which was my best week on the tour this year. So, yeah, I mean, Purple Hammer, still the answer. But Radical Closer is a really good reactive option. So
let me ask you this. Why do you think that you relied on the urethane too much? Like what makes you say too much?
So my miss is always with rotation. I get my shoulder gets ahead of me a little bit and it forces my hand to the outside of it. So I'm always using about 60 degrees or more of rotation, which in most cases is too much. With the reactive balls, you can't get them to slow down and get in front of the head pin the right way. And so with urethane, at least I know it's reading the front part of the lane. So I would use my rotation. I wouldn't have to try and break my hand anyway, and I would just rely on the urethane to read the front part of the lane. So even if I was playing 15, there were blocks at the US Open that I was playing 15 trying to throw urethane because my hand was very, very around it. It just so happened to work that week, but I need to think more outside the box, think about adding tools to my game so I can compete more. When I'm able to use urethane, I repeat really well because I know that my miss is not an issue with it. However, I think that if I had gotten better with reactive prior to this year, I would have probably caught 3 or 4 more caches. I would have made at least 1 more cut, if not 2. I cost Kenny a doubles cut because I could not get my reactive ball to slow down the right way at the doubles in Indy this year. So I went through urethane and I tried to bail it out. Long story short, if I got better with reactive, I think my game would be 10 times stronger than it is today. So,
do you do any short pin reactive layouts?
Yeah, I actually use a lot of them. There was one that rolled really good for me this year. I did it on a Vapor Zone hybrid by Brunswick. I did like a 1.5 inch pin with the mass below my thumb, and that was incredible at the US Open. We bowled on a 45-foot pattern the second day that the gutter had a lot of friction and the middle part of the lane was really tough. So I took that and I used a lot of surface and I jumped on top of the gutter, and that was incredible. I think I had 730 for the middle 3 that block. There are other times I've had success. Yeah, there's a lot of times I've had success with short pinballs. But that I don't want that to be my crutch being able to use reactive. I want to be able to use true reactive again, So.
All right. So going off more of the layouts, how fast do you understand the correct layouts for your style?
It actually took a little bit of time. So when I got to college bowling, I didn't know a lot about layouts, about bowling balls. I had never even thrown a urethane ball before I got to college, and with the exception of like the 3.0 Team Master skill ball, like I had never really, I hadn't broadened my horizons enough to understand that kind of stuff. And then I got to college and I got to work with my friend Kenny Ryan, who's really, really intelligent, and my college coach. And as time progressed, I began to learn more about what matched up to, my rev rate and my style of play. And I think now I have a really good understanding of what layouts work for me. But again, like bowling on tour is very, very different. And so this year was a lot about learning, what layouts and what shapes and what type of bowling balls roll well for me on the thicker oil that we see on tour, being with the different oil machine. So yeah, I think over time, like if you throw a lot of bowling balls and, if you expect one thing out of them and you see another, it could be layout related and you could change your layouts, change your game plan a little bit. But I think that with more experience, like I've learned a lot about layouts, and I think that, right now I have a really good understanding of what rolls well for me.
Sure. Sure.
How many different layouts do you use in general?
It really does depend on what we're bowling on. If I'm drilling new balls, especially, I have, 3 or 4 layouts that I really, really like. However, if the lane is asking for something different, we'll punch something up with a layout that fits the lane better.
Okay.
All right, let's see what we got here. What's the best advice you can give if someone wants to get into the tour?
First and foremost, make sure that you are competing on some kind of level before you want to do that. Put yourself in pressure situations as much as possible. Even if it's at practice and you're bowling with a friend, put yourself in a pressure situation that will allow you to see how you handle it. The tour is all about how you respond to pressure. Every shot, there's a different level of intensity that you need to be able to cope with. And so that's the biggest thing I would say before you jump into bowling the tour is just make sure you can handle that adversity each and every time you step on the lanes. Other than that, it's really just averaging 200 in league. Make sure you're in good standing, obviously, with the PBA and USBC. And if you're averaging 200, you can buy your membership and start to test your skills out there. I think that's really it. I mean, if you think you have what it takes, the only way to know if you do or not is to give it a whirl. And that's why I recommend bowling some local competition before you get out there. But then there's regionals, and there's non-champ regionals, which are really, really helpful because you're not going to be dealing with the big time national players. So you can see how you respond to bowling on those patterns against guys of your skill level, who don't have a title. If you handle that well, then take your chance and take the leap.
When did you first start bowling regionals?
I was 16 when I bowled my first regional, I believe. Yeah, 16. It was a non-champs event in New Jersey. I've bowled, I would like to say 13 or 14 regionals now. And I've missed cash at 2 of them. The first one and then one this past year. But in between, I had not missed a cash at any of the regionals. But yeah, I started bowling them when I was 16. There's no better time to start doing them than at a young age. They obviously give youth bowlers the opportunity to sign a waiver and take any earnings they make and put it into their smart accounts, which is awesome. It'll help you with, paying for college, anything school related. So if you're at that, if you think you're at that skill level and you're really young, there's no better time to jump in than when you're a young up and coming bowler than to start bowling regional. That's the best time to do it.
Sure. Now, did you have the intentions of going on tour when you were at school or when you went to school?
Absolutely. I knew I wanted to do it. I bowled the Masters actually when I was 16 as well. That was my first really big event that year. That was right after I finished second at junior gold in the U15 that year. And right from there, I was like, all right, I'm doing this. I'm just going to start bowling everything I can. I started bowling adult tournaments, signing waivers. I bowled team trials. I bowled the Masters. I bowled a couple of regionals. Whatever the case was, I knew that I was going to put myself in that spot to go and bowl on the tour. It actually, I honestly don't think it would have been possible if I didn't go to college where I went. I went to Robert Morris, now known as Roosevelt University. As I progressed through my 4 years there, I made a really big transition in my game. And as I went through that, I determined that I was ready to bowl on the tour. But it was always an aspiration for me. Growing up, every Sunday I'd go and watch the telecasts with my dad after we bowled our adult child league. And even from a young age, it was something I always really wanted to do. So
nice. So I know from my experience, Ron knows the coaching staff at Purdue as well. They have some of the best physical game, or one of the guys is one of the best physical game coaches I've ever been around, Doug. Did those coaches help, I guess, your passion for the game more?
Absolutely. When I got to college, my game was, it wasn't really all together. I actually didn't even think I was going to make the varsity team my freshman year when I got there. I ended up sneaking onto the team. My game had a lot of things that needed to grow. But my coach was really adamant about me fixing things right when I got there. And I wanted to know, I wasn't really sure as to why. I was kind of the small fish in the big pond at the time. And I really didn't understand why he was pushing me so hard. And as that year progressed, he brought out a level that I had never seen myself throw the ball at before. I had never bowled well at team trials. I never bowled well on a national stage. Other than that one time I bowled well at junior gold. And I went out to trials that year after I really hadn't bowled much in college. I think I bowled 5 games in the first 4 months at school. And I was used basically in a mop-up role the whole time. And I went out there and I got skipped for the last spot for junior team. And so obviously something had changed, whether it was mental or physical, there were things that got better. And from there on out, like my mind was in the right place most of the time as to working with him as much as I could to get my physical game in an elite spot to be able to compete. And I would like to say that where I'm at right now, I'm physically good enough. It's just adding, punching the bag, adding tricks. But yeah, when I got there, my physical game was not nearly good enough, but he made some big changes with me over the 4 years that helped me to get to where I am.
Let me ask you this. So, like, I think this is something that bowlers don't really know or understand either. How many games do you think you've bowled to get to the bowl?
In my life?
Yeah.
I don't know if I could put a number on it. I had how much?
10,000, 100,000?
More. Whatever your number is, it's probably more than that. There were days I'd go in. There was a point my senior year, I was practicing. If we weren't competing, I was practicing 6 days a week. And at least 2 of those days, because I was running a pro shop at the time at our bowling center, before I'd work, after I'd work, I'd make sure I got in, 4 or 5 hours of practice. And I'd work on something different each time I bowled. So there was a time where I probably could have been bowling 40 games in a day. And I was actually in better shape then than I am now, bowling that much every day. And I was working out and eating better. Now that, there's not that structure for me, it's a little bit harder to keep on that. But yeah, I had to have bowled on when it was just a practice week. I definitely could say I bowled 300 games in a week.
But that's important for people to hear, because I think a lot of times people don't understand how much dedication you have to get to that level.
Absolutely.
It isn't go bowl your 3 games of league and average 230 and you're ready to go bowl on the PBA tour.
Right.
The guys that are successful, I mean, I find it kind of interesting because, like, when I look at when I think of Jason Belmonte, well, he grew up in a bowling center. His family's got a bowling center. EJ Tackett, his family's got a bowling center. He grew up in a bowling center. So, these guys, and even what you're talking about yourself, you're bowling hours and hours and hours and hours to really, really hone your skills physically, just the physical component. Because if you can't repeat shots, the rest of it doesn't mean anything. But then, on top of the physical side of it, you've got to get that mental side right. And that only comes through competition. That only comes from bowling with people, bowling against people, crossing lanes,
being in transition.
In transition, that only comes from that experience. So I think that's one thing that people don't fully understand, because, it's easy to go bowl league and average 220 or 230, but that's because you got a lot of lane help.
Right.
You don't realize how much lane help you get till you go bowl USBC Nationals, or where you go bowl a PBA regional,
right,
or you go bowl, a real tough pattern where it's flat. Then you see the difference between you and these professional bowlers like yourself. So I think people need to hear and understand that it's not just something that you can just go out and do. And averaging 200 on a house shot is a whole lot easier than averaging 200 on a national tour.
Yeah, I think there were always times where I'd be at practice and I'd feel like I had a good practice. I'd say, all right, one more good shot, and I'd be done. And I'd be there for an hour, because I want to feel it inside of me that I threw a good one. Doesn't matter, where the ball went. If I'm trying to accomplish something, I want to know that I got it, So those were like, I get what you're saying, the amount of games you put in a week, a month, a year. It's very important to note. Those type of practices to me are like more paramount. If you're, I want to feel that one good one before I leave, because if I can get that, that memory, like I really like that one, I feel like I can do it again. Because if you do it once, you can obviously do it again. Those were the hardest practices I ever had, was trying to find that one shot. I'm like, all right, that was the money shot. Like that one got my blood into bowling again, So yeah, like those were the ones that would make my practices really long, add an hour, 2 hours, whatever it was, because I want to feel that one really pristine shot. So.
Very nice. Very nice. So we're going to go away from the bowling questions a little bit.
Sure.
Whose jerseys are in the background?
So I'm a big New York Knicks fan. I'm a New York sports fan in general. So the number 7 is Carmelo Anthony, and the number 9 is an RJ Barrett jersey. He's a rookie with the Knicks. And then there's my Team USA sweatshirt in the middle. I big Knicks fan, big LeBron James fan. I'm surprised that there's no LeBron James jersey behind me. But yeah, so that's what's behind me.
Nice.
What do you do bowling, man?
What do I do when I'm not bowling? I play lots of video games.
What's your favorite video game?
MLB The Show 20.
Are you like on Twitch and
I wish I actually am pretty good at the game. So like the highest level you can get to in the game is there's a number, it's 900, and I'm in the 800s. So like I'm pretty good at, like when it comes to online competitive play, I have a winning record online. I compete with a lot of like the really good players that stream the game and stuff like that. But I wouldn't have that following to, stream on Twitch, even though it's something that I've actually thought about doing because I enjoy the game that much. I put in enough hours, especially in this, 3-month quarantine. I honestly think I've played somewhere between 10 and 12 hours a day over the States.
Level, bro, like it's free money though, isn't it? Like you don't have to do nothing crazy. You gotta get your little setup. Bro.
Yeah, I mean, and like I said, it's something I would love to do. I've grown like a legitimate passion for that game. Like for example, today they released a new program in the game. You got to play through a bunch of challenges to get some players, stuff like that. And we actually we lost power here for a little bit. There was a storm. So I was like freaking out, like, oh no, I can't play my challenges today. So, I've grown this like really sick passion for the game. Part of it's not a good thing because when life does go back to normal, I have to, put the controller down and do my job. So, but yeah, MLB The Show 20 is definitely what I've played. I see people play Call of Duty and Fortnite and all these other things, but MLB The Show is the way to go for me.
We got Dustin. We need to get him set up on. Dustin got the chair. Dustin got like the gamer chair.
I see it.
So I think we need to get you set up. We can be Michael Martell, bowler by day, MLB The Show by night. And
I'd be cool with it. I'd be down. I'd be 100% into that. That'd be awesome.
You know what I'm saying? Bowler gamer. You can start a whole little trend and get some friends and some followers. I'm gonna tell you this: I don't play video games just because I have other things that I'm involved with. But I think video games is like the future. You know what I'm saying? It's like the future sport. Like esports is growing massively all over the world. So if I was like a 15, 14-year-old kid and I was, what am I going to do? I'm going to get on some game. I'm going to find me some games because I got friends now that do, a little bit of streaming or whatever. And I'm like, that's not me. But I can tell you there's a whole lot of money there. And if you get real good at it.
There is. A college teammate of mine, Chase Benitez, he really, really good bowler from Michigan. He played League of Legends on his PC, and he was in the top 0.1% in the world at the game. And I know it was a joke at the time, but there was a time when our school had an esports team, and he could have gotten a full scholarship to play that game at my school, but we were only getting offered 50% to bowl. So I know there's something inside of him that was like, oh yeah, I should go play this game and get a free ride to college for it. So it's definitely possible. I mean, it's something I would love to do because I enjoy the game that much. But at the same time, like there are some of these guys out there that have such a following already. There are guys that I watch on Twitch that play the game, 40,000, 50,000 followers, subscribers, people that are paying to watch them play the game. So like, I don't think I would ever get to that kind of level at it, but I enjoy it. I would love to stream for fun, give some bowlers something interesting to watch. Cause I sit there and I rage out about the game a little bit. I get angry, strike out a couple of times and, oh, come on, man. Like I start getting really upset. And so, yeah, I mean, that's something I would love to do, obviously, but maybe we'll see. We'll see what happens.
All those people, they got 40, 50,000 followers. They started with 0.
You're right.
They all started with 0.
I mean, it's incredibly difficult, but if you get that following, 8,000-9,000 subscribers, paying $5 a month. Granted, they only get, I think it's half of it, but
20.
Regardless, it was even if I was getting 40% of it, I'd be all right with. I'd be all right.
It's money, man. It's money that you didn't have.
Yeah.
I'm gonna tell you. No, go ahead.
What were you gonna say?
I was gonna say, look, I'm gonna tell you. At the end of the day, if you are passionate about playing video games, and it's something that you really like doing, You can do both. You can do both. You're a professional bowler. You are one of the few people that can do both. You can play video games, and then if you don't want to play video games, you can bowl. You can do both. It's just it's just free money. Like it's free money. And for
Yeah,
me,
it's something that I would consider. Like I said, Darren Tang has a pretty good following on Twitch now, from what I've seen. I know Chris Vi plays a little bit on his Twitch. I've seen bowlers make. Kevin Williams has a following, not doing. He has a music following. So and then the Raymond Lucier. I don't know if you guys know who that is. Rambo Ray. He plays video games. He's a professional gamer and he's a pro bowler. So there's ways to do it. I just, if I could get that following, I would love to do it. It'd be great. I would enjoy it and people would laugh at me because, I'd get really angry a lot of the time, but it'd be fun. Definitely something I would consider.
There's side note, and then we'll go back. There's one guy I watch on YouTube, and I'm pretty sure he has his following just because he gets mad. There's people that will follow you because you get mad, but that's complete side note.
I watch a streamer. He plays MLB The Show, and he's definitely worse than I am. He's not good at the game, but in his content, he's always getting angry. Putting funny memes up while he's getting angry in his videos that he's posting, and he's got 1,500 followers and subscribers. So it's definitely possible.
Yeah, definitely. So what are a few things you would tell a bowler who has been in the beginner phase for a while, and what they should focus on when they're ready to move up?
That's tough because I think the physical game is really important. Focusing on being versatile and being able to use different bowling balls, different parts of the lane. Spare shooting. Obviously, your delivery is important. How you throw the ball. That's obviously paramount to having success. I would say if you think your physical game is okay, read a coaching book. The book I read by Dr. Dean, he's a sports psychologist, by far the best read I've ever had. Just talks about how to overcome some mental issues when competing, and he has excerpts from a lot of different pros like Jason Belmonte and Deandra Asbeady and a couple other people. And it just teaches you how to cope the experience. Like I was talking about earlier. How to get through some pressure situations and build on how good you feel you are. So if your physical game you think is sound, I would look into reading a coaching book. Maybe go to a class to learn more about the game. Do some research. It's not all about your delivery, although your delivery is probably the most important part, just to make sure you have good repetition. But there's a lot of different ways you can, help prepare yourself for reaching that next level. Yeah,
I personally think mental game is one of the most important things that you can work on, regardless of what stage you're in.
Yeah, I've read through that book quite a few times. I even wrote some notes in it, things that I like to go back and focus on. That book was incredible. So,
yeah. When I was growing up, I read a book on tennis.
The Inner Game of Tennis.
Yes.
I read that one a few times as well.
That's very good. Very good.
The former director of our program, Dale Lehman, who is now actually working at Calumet College. I don't know if you've seen that.
Yeah.
He bought the book for his girls team and made the girls team read it. And I was dating a girl on the girls team at the time. So that was the first time I read it. And now I have the copy. So I've read it a few other times since then. That book's really good too. If you can make the connection between the sports, and try and apply it to what you're doing, that book's really good as well.
Mm-hmm. You read any books about that kind of stuff, Ron?
Of course, man. So I'm a friend of Dr. Dean.
I love Dr. Dean. He's great.
He's a great guy. I think I saw him probably 4 or 5 months ago. We actually went to the gym together. He was an elite gymnast at one point in time, but he's old like me. So you go to the gym when you get old. So we got to hang out and talk. And I've known him for a long time. Very, very sharp guy. Very, very sharp guy. I read a bunch of bowling. I'm reading a bowling book right now.
What are you reading?
Let me see what it's called. I think hang on, I'm gonna tell you. I'm gonna look it up because I'm reading it. How I read books, right? So I read them in stages. I tend to read them first thing in the morning because I got some time to myself then. So here we go. It's loading right now. Beyond Bowling, or Bowling Beyond the Basics. That's what I'm reading right now. So it's kind of like, I like the book because it's kind of like a Mythbusters type book. It's like everybody says you hit up on the ball, you throw like a frisbee when you're trying to hook it. Well, really, that's not what you're doing. This is what's really going on. So I like it. It's kind of interesting too. So there's a few things that I've seen in this book that are actually from videos that I did. No, they don't. Oh yeah, it's weird. It's weird, right? Because there's no credit given. The credit's given to Ebonite International, which is who I used to work for. But they're definitely my videos.
That's interesting. That's cool.
So I'm like, well, that's interesting. But so far, I mean, I'm enjoying the bowling book. I think reading is a key to life. Like at the end of the day, there are people that have been through situations that you haven't been through. And if they're willing to share their experiences and you can learn from them experiences, it can have you have a better life, whether it's a bowling book or whether it's a book about finances or whether it's a book about general life. There was a book that I read called it was by Robert Kiyosaki what's it called? Rich Dad, Poor Dad. And that book, it changed my opinion on finances. Completely changed my opinion on finances, on how to spend money, on how to save money, on what to do with money. Just completely changed my whole dynamic of how I saw money. And as a result of reading that book at an early age, it definitely was able to allow me to get to a spot to where, money's not that big of an issue anymore. So I think reading in general, no matter how you need to consume it, is very, very, very important in all aspects of your life, because you never know what you'll pick up or what will stick or what you'll gravitate toward that can change your life.
Absolutely.
Definitely. What do you feel is most important during your practice, quantity or quality, or a combination of both?
I'm going to go with combination of both. There are a lot of times I practice and I just do drills, and I try and work on my hand, whatever I'm trying to do. When you're doing that kind of stuff, I think that both of those things are, applicable. You want to throw a lot of shots so that way you're kind of getting yourself into the muscle memory kind of, so you can repeat it well. But at the same time, if you do it efficiently a certain number of times per practice and you're not pushing yourself too far, that also does the trick as well. So there's different ways to skin the cat. But there's lots of times where I'll go in, like whenever I get the chance to practice regularly again, I'm going to go in, I'm going to bowl for 3 hours just because I haven't bowled, just to get my legs under me again, just to, feel my swing and, figure out where I need to go. So in that type of situation, the quantity of shots I think is important, but quality is also really important. If you're trying to work on something, make sure every shot has a purpose, So I would say both, different times where you can apply each one, but definitely both.
Sure.
Do you stretch?
I do. A little bit. Not too much. In college, our college coach really didn't like when we stretched. He wanted us to throw our first shot stiff, so that way we would naturally warm up. I stretch a little bit now before I bowl, but not a ton, just a little bit.
What about you, Dustin? You stretch?
A little bit. I try to. Otherwise, the first shot is not going to feel great.
Yeah.
But I mean, we were the complete opposite. We stretched before college tournaments, and then I tried to keep doing it when I left school, but sometimes it just doesn't happen.
Right.
What is your favorite PBA pattern to bowl on?
Definitely cheetah. And I'm pretty sure that was an expected answer. Anything, a lot of the shorter patterns really suit me and the lefties well, where I can, like I said, I like to throw urethane when I can throw it, I have my best chance to score. But I'm not afraid of bowling on longer patterns like a lot of these guys. If you're going to give me 45 feet, for example, the US Open, we bowled on a 45-foot pattern that the gutter played okay. I would love to bowl on that because I know I have some shim in the middle and I can throw reactive bowling balls, and I can just, play my game. So obviously I would love to bowl on the shorter pattern, specifically cheetah, specifically in Las Vegas. But no, I'm not afraid of any pattern. So if you want to hear a different answer, besides that, I really, this is going to sound crazy, but I actually liked bowling on Badger the couple times I bowled on it. I like, being able to play different angles and do different things and test myself.
So going back to that in Vegas, tell us what it was like to bowl 300 games in a row.
So I started that first block in the morning with the wrong game plan. I bowled really poorly. We bowled on cheetah, and I know the friction in Las Vegas is pretty high, and the pattern's 33 feet, I think now. I don't think it's 35 feet anymore. And so I tried to throw a purple hammer at the gutter pretty steep, and wrong idea. The righties were able to do a lot of that, but they were doing it with either reactive short pin balls, etc. I was trying to do it with a urethane ball I gave myself some really weird over-under. I bowled like 100 under or so at the first block. I was at the very bottom of the standings. I came into the second block throwing a black hammer, and I said I'm going to stay straight as I need to, and just kind of throw it hard and at that, but make sure I hit the one in the front every time. I bowled 220 the first game, and I was like, all right, I'm going to bowl 220 every game. I'm 200 pins better than this morning. I'm doing something right. Maybe if I did that from the get-go, I make the cut. And before I knew it, I had the first 7 the next game. I bowled 250, and then I threw 24 in a row and did not expect that whatsoever. The first 300 game, I caught two breaks. I threw a couple of shots pretty far right, but with the black, it's so weak and so early that creates a pretty good shim. The one in the last shot in the 10th was pristine. That was the best shot I threw that day. The next 300 game, I started out with a bunch of really good ones in a row, and in the 10th, I missed right on the first one. It laid up, it shimmed. The second one, I made a move to try and allow myself to be comfortable, and I missed left. And with the black, I know it's going to see the friction, but it's not going to corner off of it. It's just way slower. It's just going to bleed. And I rolled the 3-pin forward. And I was like, okay. So I tried to be in the same place and just rip the holes out of it, throw it slower. And I rolled the 6-pin on a really good shot. So through 24 in a row, and I had 865 the last 3, and I still missed a cut by 11 pins or 12 pins. Oh. So, but to go from 117th to 20th in 5 games is pretty good.
Yeah,
I'd say that was, that
was pretty impressive.
That was pretty fun, and I really wasn't nervous through a lot of that until the second 10th frame of the 300 games. I didn't even really think about it. I got up there in the 10th, that second game, and I was like, wait, what? I was like, I have 21 in a row, and I was like, all right. I was like, let's do it, and I bowled 300. And you could see when I roll the 6-pin, I walk off the lane, I'm laughing, and I'm like, wow, cool. That's fun. And Chuck Gardner was behind me. He goes, you're not out of the cut yet. He goes, go bowl another one. And I almost got there. I needed to break the PBA scoring record to make the cut. The 5-game scoring record is 351 over by Andrew Kane a couple years ago on cheetah at the World Series of Bowling. And I bowled 339 over, and I missed by 12. Wow. So I needed to break the scoring record to make the cut. But that block is nothing to be ashamed of. That was a lot of fun. I've never struck that much in my life, and I don't know if I'll ever strike that much in my life again. So, and I think it was easy to do that because I was bowling with no cares. There was no pressure on me at that point. In my mind, I'm like, all right, I'm just going to try and learn today. I'm not going to press. There was nothing to bowl for. I was like, if I happen to bowl a really good block, good. I put myself in better standing for the World Championship. Nothing crossed my mind about trying to make the cut. And so I get there in that last game, even I bowled 265, and I wasn't thinking about the cut at all. I get up I need the second one of the 10th to have a chance, to see what the rest of the guys around me finish. And I strike, and there's a lot of people watching me at that point. And, they're all like, man, great finish. And I'm like, oh, thank you. And I look up, and I saw I finished at 230 over, and I was like, wow, that's a nice surprise. So yeah, maybe I got to try and bowl with that mindset a little more. No press, don't freak out, don't care as much, and just let the score happen. Yeah, it was a lot of fun. That was a fun block.
I can only imagine. So a couple more questions for you. Bill asked, what is the role of a ball rep? Are they more like a coach?
Coach, yes, but not in the physical game sense. They're more about lane play, ball choice. If you're going to drill bowling balls, they help you with layouts. Yeah, they're not there to, tell you, yeah, try and do this more. And if they want to, they can, be like, yeah, roll it a little bit more, move your feet. But they don't really work on physical game stuff. They're just there to line you up, make sure you're doing the right thing. And if you're bowling well, they want to keep you bowling well. If you're not bowling well, they want to find out why you're not bowling well and help you get to that spot.
All right. Important question. What is your pre-shot routine?
That's a good one. That's a really good one because my pre-shot routine has changed quite a few times. So I'll tell you a short story quickly. I bowled the Fusion Realtors Open last year in Iowa. I won the tournament, but after the event was over, I received multiple complaints about how I took too long in the title match. The one match had to have taken a half hour, maybe a little bit longer. And my pre-shot routine had to have been 45 seconds before I even stood up on the approach. Wiping my ball, wiping my shoes, breathing, the whole 9 yards. And so I made sure after that, I tightened things up. I actually think I got really quick on the approach compared to what I was. But yeah, now it's wipe my ball a few times, wipe the heel on my right foot, and I look and see if anybody's up, and I step up and I go. I do this thing with my shoulder that my buddy Kenny absolutely hates. I raise my shoulder one time before I go. It's just something that at first it was to try and free up my swing, and now it's kind of like just stuck in my head that I do it every shot. We were joking about it a couple times. So, but yeah, I mean, pre-shot routine is definitely important. There's a lot of times where if you're bowling really well and your pre-shot routine is the same, they're the same, chances are you're going to repeat really well. It's you're getting your mind into that spot where it knows what it wants to do, and your body just kind of follows its line and does its thing. So that's. I was always, even when I was really young, I was big into my pre-shot routine being exactly the same every frame. So,
yeah, I mean, that's super, super important to get yourself in the mindset of, all right, I need to throw a good shot now, or I'm up to throw a shot. So
yeah, and
that's super important.
Yeah, and that's why I try and keep it the same. It kind of gets those thoughts out of your mind, and at one point it was, how many times I was wiping the ball down, or it was, I would say a phrase in my head before I bowled. They're just little kinks that stuck with me that once they became repeatable and they felt comfortable, they kind of helped me, repeat shots. Just get up there and let your body do its job.
Great. Well, thank you very much for coming to join us.
Absolutely.
Hope you enjoyed. Ron, you have anything else to add?
Man, I think it's awesome to have you on our staff. We're blessed to be able to have you like following your career. It's very, very early. Anything obviously we can do to help and support, we will continue to do. And, I'm looking forward to watching you get back on the lanes. And maybe one time I'll be lucky enough to sit back behind you and watch you throw a 24 in a row too. That'd be pretty awesome.
I appreciate everything you guys have done for me in the last couple months. I would love to see you guys, at some events watching, watch me make my first couple of runs. It'd be really cool. So again, thank you guys for having me on. Thank you for all you guys do for me and for, everybody else that we have on staff with us. Thank you.
So that being said, thank you everybody for tuning in to CtD Tech Thursday this week. We'll be back next Thursday, same time, 8 p.m. Eastern, Creating the Difference Facebook, as well as the Ronald Hicklin Jr. YouTube. So that being said, guys, have a great night, and we'll talk to everybody soon.
Thanks.
Good night, guys. All right.